My name is Trish Ware, and I am obsessed with all things pregnancy and birth, and helping you to navigate both the practical and the magical seasons of this journey called motherhood. I'm an all-day coffee-sipping mama of 7. I've had the amazing privilege of delivering many babies in my 15-plus year career as a labor and delivery nurse and as a mama of 7. I'm here to help you take the guesswork out of childbirth so you can make the choices that are right for you and your baby. Quick note, this podcast is for educational purposes only and does not replace your medical advice. Check out our full disclaimer at the bottom of the show notes. Good morning, everyone. Today's guest is a former VBAC Lab student, Alicia Zayas, and I am so excited to have her here. And I'm not going to give away why, but you'll find out in a minute. So, Alicia, welcome.
Thank you so much, Trish. I really appreciate it. And I'm excited to be here as well.
Yes, we have such an exciting story for you guys, especially for my VBAC moms. We were just talking before we started that so many roadblocks are put in front of you, and it makes you question your body, your capabilities. And so I hope that this episode really gives you hope that the birth you're dreaming about is possible. So, Alicia, tell us about your first birth, which played a role in you finding me and the VBAC Lab.
Yes. So obviously I had to have a C-section in order to have a VBAC, right? So my first experience of my first child, actually, Lorenzo, he was born in February of 2020. And I was, like any new mom, where I just really didn't know what I didn't know, right? I had went through like a Lamaze training. I felt like I had some relatively good knowledge on birth and experience. I had hired a doula to be with me. I thought I was prepared, but I was not. And so it was really eye-opening for me, that experience, and extremely traumatic as well. I would definitely say that I had PTSD after having my son, because one of the main aspects was I had kind of been like tricked in this whole situation. I had hired a midwife, but she was a nurse midwife. And so, I thought that was going to be the best possible way to have a natural, unmedicated birth in a hospital. And so anyways, come to find out, my water broke, at home. I had started labor that day. I went into the hospital, not rushing, just like taking it easy, trying to really just be in a good mindset. Again, I had goals of having an unmedicated birth experience, and got there. Everybody was respecting my birth plan. Like, I didn't want to be checked if I didn't need to be checked, all the things. Well, a few hours pass by. My midwife comes in. She's, checking out for the day basically. And she says, well, let me just, do an ultrasound just to make sure that the baby's in the right position. And something felt off at that moment. It felt like she knew something that I didn't know. And sure enough, she did. She had known that the baby had been in a breech position for weeks.
Why didn't she tell you?
Nobody had told me this information.
Why?
I don't know.
That's not good.
It's not okay. I felt like it was total bait and switch situation. And so in that moment, she's bringing in the ultrasound machine. She checks, and sure enough, he's still in a breech position. Mind you, my water's already broken. Nobody has checked me to see where I'm at in terms of dilation or anything. And immediately she says, okay, we're going into an emergency C-section. I'm calling the doctor right now, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's just chaos, pure chaos. There's no time to process. My doula attempted to have a conversation with her, and she just shut her down. There was no conversation being had. I was just in a complete mess, right? So this was
I'm flabbergasted, honestly.
It was horrendous. Okay. So my control was completely ripped from me, and I just felt so, rolled over, right? Like I had no options.
Of course you did.
So it was a very traumatic experience for me, and for months afterwards I grieved the loss of my birth experience,
Mm.
you know. And so it was really hard. And I wish that I had been able to go back and like advocate for myself, but I didn't know how to do that in those moments, and I really needed my partner or somebody else to advocate for me in that moment, and I didn't have that kind of support that was needed.
Yeah.
So fast forward, right? About a year later, I'm kind of considering, okay, if I decide we want to have another baby, what does this look like? Because I am not going to go down that road again. I cannot mentally go down that road again. It was so extremely difficult. And so anyways, I started searching online and found your VBAC Lab, and I was like, okay, so there's somebody, right, that is advocating for this, that is sharing awareness information. So I started following you on Instagram first, and then ended up getting pregnant in like December of 21. And so in January of 22, I signed up for the VBAC Lab and was super excited to like start this journey, and then ended up miscarrying at 11 weeks.
Mm.
And so, that was difficult to experience that loss. And then later that
Yeah.
year, we kept trying and had a chemical pregnancy. And then finally, my new midwife that I had hired, she said it was okay to go ahead and try Clomid again, because that's how I actually got pregnant with my first one, was by taking Clomid. So we got pregnant first try, and I was super excited. But again, I knew that this experience was going to be different. And I had, really just tried to do as much as I could to research and be prepared. So with this experience, I decided I wanted to try to have a home birth and a VBAC all in one. And so I had reached out to a couple home birth midwives in my area, because I just felt like that was going to be the safest option in terms of me actually being able to accomplish this goal. Because we live in a relatively rural area here in California. It's like Central California,
Which
Fresno.
people don't think, right?
Yeah. They think of
Yeah.
like LA and San
Yeah.
Francisco. Well, we live in ag land. Like that's where we're at. It's
Yeah.
agriculture.
I've driven through there so many times, like that whole like inner way from, from the desert up until Sacramento. And it's
Mhm.
literally like a different world.
It is. It's completely different and very rural in many ways. And a lot of, the doctors and providers around here are just not VBAC supportive at all. I had done my research during that early pregnancy, and just felt like nobody really around here was super supportive, which you made very clear about. Like, there's VBAC tolerant and VBAC supportive. And I just didn't feel like anybody was super supportive. So I just felt like going the home midwife route was going to be my best option. And so I was finally able to get one of them to agree to take me on. And so I met with her. Her name's Alex. And I was excited to start this process, but nervous because, like, oh, this is a home birth. Like, what does that even mean? What does that
Can
look
I
like?
interrupt you just for
Yeah.
a second? Did you said, so did you ask her specifically, like how much experience you have? What are your outcomes with VBACs? Like,
Yes.
did you like very much VBAC grill her?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And she was very, very direct with me. She said, I've done VBACs. I'm willing to, work with you, but if anything gets outside of the normal range of pregnancy or delivery, you will be, taken to the hospital. Like, there's
Good.
no
Okay.
ifs or buts about it, right? So she was very direct about that, but I felt like she was supportive. I felt like she was going to be an advocate for me, because that's what I wanted and desired. And she was. And so her and her trainee or practicum person, I forget what you call them, but
Like her
she was on
assistant.
the team. Yeah, her assistant. And so they were amazing. I ended up actually getting gestational diabetes with this pregnancy. And so that was a little scary too, because I was like, wait a second, is this going
Now
to
what?
interfere with my plans?
Yeah.
But they worked with me. My midwife at the clinic here in town worked with me, because I I had both. I had like my midwife at the clinic, and I also had my home midwives, but they were working together. They understood that this was the goal, and the midwife at the clinic was 100% on board with, whatever felt right for me. So she hit down about my prior experience as well.
I really love that you had support from both sides. Like that makes a huge difference.
It was very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was able to get like all my labs done, through the clinic, and, ultrasounds and all the things through medical insurance, the way that you would normally do it, but still have my home birth, experience, which, mind you, Trish, this was an amazing experience too, in and of itself. Like, they would spend an hour with me at like every appointment at my home.
I'm so jealous. I can't even. I wanted to have a home birth so bad with Grayson, but it just wasn't in the cards.
Yeah, it was really amazing. It was just so supportive. They really just wanted to get to know me, my family, all the dynamics. It was really amazing.
So let me ask you another question, because I know that this comes up a lot when I chat with my students or people, that send us DMs. What about your partner? Where was your partner at with this? And completely 100% on board? Did you have to nurture him into this?
Yeah. So I would say like 100% on board, in terms of he wanted what I wanted, and like he knew that this was the best option for me, and that this was the only way that I was like gonna feel really great about it.
Yeah.
And so he was like, okay, we're gonna do this, and he was okay with it. Now, he's not the kind of guy that's like, oh, let me learn all the things, right? And let me understand all the dynamics, and let me sit in on these, appointments. That is not him at all. So I really took the lead on that aspect, and you could tell, because during the actual home birth experience, he was so unprepared that he like didn't know how to put the nozzle on the shower head in order to get the pool filled up, and so the pool wasn't filled up in time. And
yeah, that just so you guys listening, if you're using a pool, it can take a long time. So if you get to the hospital and you're using a pool, you want to use a pool, ask them to start filling that up.
Yes. Well, and I think for me, the midwives and everybody thought it was going to take a lot longer than it did, Trish. I had
I don't know why though.
Birth experience. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think because nobody had checked me the first time, right?
Yeah.
We didn't know how far I had gotten during that first labor experience. So it was kind of hard for them to gauge, what this experience would look like. And the other aspect that I think plays a role in that might also be that, I also had that miscarriage. And so, your body's experiencing like postpartum, and, all the things, related to that as well. So, so I've had a few experiences, I guess you could say. So going back to the story, I apologize.
No, that's okay. We love these little offsides.
Okay. So, I had gestational diabetes. I'm late maternal age, right? I'm over 35, gestational, or, geriatric pregnancy, if you want to call it that. And
I don't.
For VBAC, like it.
I'm not a fan.
All these combinations of things. But again, I was really diligent about my diet and exercise, and like, I was determined that if at all possible, I was going to have this baby at home.
Yeah. And you were diet controlled the whole time, right?
Yeah, 100%. So my contractions began on July 31st. So we're actually coming up on that in just a couple of days.
1 year. Yeah.
At around like 3 a.m. It was inconsistent, throughout the day, but like I could tell that something had changed. This was real contractions that were happening. But again, they were inconsistent. I got adjusted by the chiropractor that I had been seeing on and off a little bit that morning, because I had had a lot of back pain the night before.
Ooh, I love those chiropractor adjustments at the end of pregnancy.
She's a Webster trained chiropractor. Yeah. So I was like, thank you so much. It gave me some relief, and I knew that would help probably with the transition as well. So at 4 p.m. that day, that's when like things started getting more consistent and increasing in intensity. I called my doula. She arrived around 8:30 p.m. because I was like, at 4, I was like letting her know this was happening. I went and took a bath. I'm doing all the things at home to just kind of like, deal with life and my, 3-year-old at the time and all the things. And so at about 8:30, she showed up because I think around 7:30, I was like, okay, now I think I need you to come. I need you to come and help with these contractions. They're feeling really intense now. And so 8:30, she got there. She began helping me get into different positions to make sure that the baby was finding his way. And then when my midwife arrived around 10:30 p.m. that night, things were really starting to pick up. So my midwife, Alex, she checked me probably around 11. Like she got there at 10:30, watched me for about half an hour just to kind of see like what I was experiencing. And then was like, okay, do you want to get checked? Do you not want to get checked? And I was like, yeah, I want to get checked. I want to see where I'm at. I really am curious.
Yeah.
So it was about 11 p.m. And she said I was at a 4 centimeters. And then I had a contraction while she was checking me. And she said I was at 5 during the contraction. So I knew that like things were progressing pretty quickly. And she was impressed with my progress as well, because again, I don't think any of them anticipated this happening super quickly, because it was technically my first, full labor.
Yeah. And just for those of you guys listening, a lot of times we prepare you for a long process with a VBAC. And part of why I do that is because if you get in your mindset that it's going to be a long process, you don't get in your way either.
Sure. Good idea. Yeah. I think that's really good.
Yeah. Because if you don't, then when they, let's say more so for a hospital birth, which is the majority of the people listening,
mm-hmm.
If you don't, then when they get like, TikTok,
mm-hmm.
checking their timers, if you don't prepare yourself, you're not ready for that. And it's hard to navigate.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
which you don't have with a home birth. Thank God.
No. Yeah. It was such a weird experience, but amazing all at the same time.
Yeah.
So right after she checked me, that's like when contractions started getting almost on top of each other. It just felt like I didn't have much of a break, like maybe a minute in between each one. It just was like really intense. And so my doula wanted me to get in the shower so she could just like, keep the hot water running on me. And that was very relieving. It felt wonderful to have that during those really intense contractions.
I love hydrotherapy. That was my go-to as well.
It was like definitely a lifesaver. And again, during this whole process, she keeps like having me change positions. And I'm trying to also listen to my body and see like what feels right for me in that moment too. So, I kept changing positions in the shower and, and I would like during a contraction, if I wasn't in the shower, I'd be getting like on, my hands and knees in almost like not happy baby. It's like child's pose, kind of position. And that was like the most comforting position to be in during a contraction most of the time. So I got in the shower again. My doula Mona Lisa, she helped me keep me as comfortable as possible during that time. And at like 12:09, I think it was, that's when my waters ruptured. So we're into August 1st at this point, just barely. And I began to feel like intense pressure right away. And the water breaking too was also like surreal, because I was just like, whoa, what is this?
So let's ask, did you hear a big pop? Did you?
Yes,
you did. Okay. Because I never got to hear the big pop, even though I had mine break on its own several of my babies.
Huge rush, like, gush of water.
I had that, but I never heard the pop.
Yeah. It was so crazy to me. And I think I screamed at that point because I was like, whoa,
what the heck was that?
It was so crazy.
It's so relieving to me, though. I feel like when my water broke, it just relieves so much pressure.
It did. It definitely did. So that was in the shower when that happened. So then my midwives came in to check me and they were like, oh, okay, Alicia, we need to get you like in the pool now. Like you're getting ready to go at this point.
The pool is now filled up?
No, they just started like filling the pool.
Yeah, no, it takes forever.
Yeah. So it was too late. It was way
Yeah.
too late for that at this point. So they
Baby was
treated
not meant to
me.
be a tub birth.
Nope, just not going to happen. So anyways, I transferred over to my bed at this point because the pool was not ready and it was too late because the baby was coming. So I immediately began feeling like I needed to push. And within 20 minutes, Trish, Dominic was born and meeting us here in the world. I was like amazed at my body's ability to birth. Oh, now I'm getting emotional.
And I love that you just said that. And I want to pause because I think that I know, because I spend a lot of time with moms who've had a C-section who want a vaginal delivery. And there is such a huge mistrust in your body.
Yeah. Yeah. It's scary. It's scary because, you know, something was wrong the first time, right? Whether you internalized that message or it was given to you, it felt like maybe I can't do this, right?
Yeah.
And
And then a lot of the moms are told, you know, your hips, your pelvis, your this, that. And it's like they are planting that doubt.
exactly.
Even in a case like yours, your body wasn't even given a chance.
No, it wasn't. And because of the research I had done, right, I felt like I'm the best candidate because I had a breech baby the first time. So there's no guarantee that you're ever going to have a breech baby again. It's kind of like a fluke type of situation in many cases, right? So
Well, and just to point out that ACOG states that 90% of women who've had a cesarean are candidates. 90%. But do you think 90% get supported? No.
Oh no, Trish, literally the day after my first birth experience, my C-section, when my midwife came to see me that day, she had no idea how traumatic that experience had been for me because she literally told me, "Well, at least you'll get to plan the next one."
I'm speechless. Like,
Yeah,
are
it
you
was
kidding me? How callous is that? She
extremely.
didn't even ask you or identify how you felt about the
Nope.
whole thing.
No, that's how like disconnected she was from the
But
entire.
look at that one little statement
Mhm.
is subconsciously saying to a mom,
Yeah.
you don't get the option to
No,
give
you
birth
don't.
vaginally.
You don't have the option.
Yeah.
This is already set in stone. This is planned out for you. This is your
Mm.
only potential option for any future
Yeah.
birth. So
That's so maddening.
yeah,
So how
yeah.
was your recovery compared to baby number one?
Oh my gosh. I mean, just to be able to get up after having a baby and walk like to the bathroom, and feel like I
Yeah,
have
because a C-section
control.
Mom doesn't have that option.
No. And
You've
I
had major abdominal surgery.
exactly. I can remember laying in bed after getting out of the recovery room and being in my room, and I can remember saying to my family, "Where are my legs? Like
Yeah.
I can't see them."
Did
And
they
so
take my
I
legs?
literally I can't feel them. I don't know where they're at. Can you tell me where they're at? Like it felt like such a disassociation in many ways from my body. And even the experience like after birth and like trying to nurse the baby, it just felt like I was in a different place. Like I was not functioning at all levels because of the anesthesia and things that they had given me, the
Yeah.
nerve block, whatever you want to call it. But I didn't have the capacity to even communicate things like no, you're not following my birth plan. Please don't put the ointment in my baby's eyes. Right? I couldn't even verbalize that in that
Yeah.
moment because I felt like I couldn't communicate. I was so just kind
I
of
remember that way. I was that way after one of mine that I had some trauma. And
Mhm.
it is true. Like you just can't communicate well.
Yeah, it was just a horrible feeling, to be so out of control in so many ways. So, this recovery and experience, right? I was able to communicate. They knew what my desires were. Like, I asked
And
for.
you're at home.
Yeah, I was at home. I was in the comfort of my own room and bed, and it felt so nice. And all of these women were surrounding me who were just pumping me up the entire time, saying, like, you've got this. you're doing so great. Like they were just amazing. And my husband was there. He didn't want to see anything, but he was right there by my face, and I got to see the baby, at different points. Like they handed me a mirror to be able to look.
I love
was able
it.
to feel his hair and his head as he was getting close to coming out. It was just
I'm getting teary-eyed. It's just so beautiful.
so
Birth is so amazing when it's
Yeah.
left to be the natural process that it is.
100%. Now, I will tell you, right? Like I tore, I had a 2nd-degree tear and I felt it. Like I felt every bit of it when I tore, but I also was like determined. Again, I know a lot of women say like,
Well, and part of why you did is because he came out fast and furious.
oh yeah, 100%.
That's pretty common when they come out like that. Yeah.
So that was, like tough to deal with, but my midwife sewed me up and, gave me some like local anesthesia to help with the pain in the moment. But it was such a great experience overall. Again, I was just like amazed at my body's ability to do this. I was so like grateful to my team that supported and encouraged me.
Oh, it makes a huge difference.
My faith, right? Like I really feel like God blessed us with this rainbow baby.
After so much suffering.
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful. I'm gonna talk some faith stuff right now too for those of you guys that maybe are not Christians. I love all of you. But for me, I feel like there's always this moment where God reminds you how much he loves you. And especially after seasons of suffering, I remember when, like totally unrelated, but when I met my husband now after being in a very long, mentally, emotionally, physically abusive relationship, I remember the day my husband and I met for coffee for first time. We got married 20 days later, by the way, but I got out and I just felt this whisper of comfort over me. And I like to say it came from God, where he was like, see, I do love you. Because I doubted for a while with all of our suffering, like, do you actually care? And I think when you have moments like your birth and you're reminded not only how powerful God is, but how powerful you are. And it's such a healing. And that's why the VBAC Lab is also subtitled Your Redemptive Birth.
Oh,
and that is whether or not you have a vaginal delivery. That's what I want to point out to all of you guys. Joining the VBAC Lab, pursuing a VBAC, is not just about having a vaginal delivery. It's about making your own freaking decisions and owning your own birth. And that includes choosing potentially a second C-section, but you chose it. And that is redemptive in itself.
Just having the power back, right? To be able to say, yes, I need this, whatever it is, right?
Or no, I don't want that.
Exactly. I love it. So there were moments in the actual like pushing, and intensity of that experience there. I was like calling out to God, like, okay, Jesus, you got to help me.
Take the wheel.
This is intense,
Yeah.
But never once did I say, I can't do it. Right. Never once did I say, I don't think, take me to the hospital, like give me some kind of, I was determined that this was going to happen. And I believed that God was going to help me make that happen. Right.
I love that so much.
I felt like everybody that was with me was in support of that. And I never let like anybody go on and on in my pregnancy about anything that was negative about a VBAC.
I love it. Did you use my hands up stop technique? Yeah.
I would just walk away. Like, I'm not even interested. I don't have the energy.
There is so much power in that right there, Alicia. I want to stop you for a second. For those of you guys listening, take the power in little steps throughout your pregnancy so that you're so confident. And one of the ways that you can do so is when everyone and their cousin wants to tell you their horrible birth story or the reason why you shouldn't try for a VBAC lab, put your hand up in the universal sign of stop and say, hey, I appreciate you wanting to share your story, but we've made the decision that we don't want to hear any birth stories until after we give birth. Then we can get together and we can share each other's stories. It's respectful still, but it stops that. I don't know why women are so ready to tell pregnant women horror stories. Like, it's insane to me.
It is. It is. Yes. So, I didn't entertain any of those things, during my pregnancy. And if people were not supportive, I just changed the subject,
Yeah, I love that.
I ignored it and went on.
So smart.
So yeah, that was the experience. My postpartum experience was night and day compared to my C-section. And I was just so grateful to be able to just walk around, right? To be able to get up and like not be, bed bound basically, or feel like I'm solely dependent on my partner to do everything for both me and the baby. And I did the 555 rule during this postpartum period as much as I could, just to try to make sure that I was healing appropriately and really making sure that I was taking care of myself during that postpartum period. And I feel like
Let me
really
tell everybody. So the 555 is something that we recommend to our students, which is 5 days in the bed, 5 days on the bed, and 5 days near the bed. And if you're still pregnant and you're like, well, I'm not going to have any problems with that, trust me, you will. It's very hard. There's something that happens in you. And I think part of it is because we are just like caretakers, and as women, we like to get stuff done. And let's say sometimes our partners don't do it the way we want them to do it or what have you. So it is an internal battle. And I know a lot of my moms battle with thoughts of like, I should be up and doing more. I should be helping more. Like, I need to do this and that. No, you just need to take care of you and baby, period.
Yeah. And so I had told my husband ahead of time about that. I said, this is my plan, right? So you're going to be in charge of our older son and I'll take care of the baby, but like I'm just going to stay in bed, like for these amounts of times. And this is what it's going to look like. And within a few days, I felt almost back to myself, Trish, which again is that piece of like, okay, now I have to really be cognizant of making sure that I am staying in bed, even though I feel like I'm kind of back to normal. I needed to do that to take care of my body. And so I made sure to do that. And although, the soreness was different, I was able to feed my baby without pain. I mean, it was just night and day.
Well, here's the big question. Did you get hemorrhoids?
Well, I already had one.
Because those, I swear, after vaginal delivery can be,
yeah, it inflamed it dramatically. And I could feel that the midwives were like trying to help keep it, from flaring too much during birth. But it was,
they got a mind of their own.
Exactly. So, I got to live with that, right? But most women. And
well, that's another reason to stay on the bed, do those things, use your sitz bath. I'm so happy that you came today and shared this story. And I would love for you, because you guys all know that I also have a coaching business, and I'm really vying for the day that Alicia joins our coaching mastermind. Tell everybody because you do something really powerful. So share that plan that you have. Yeah.
So I'm a licensed clinical social worker in California, and I have my certification in perinatal mental health. So all things, infertility, miscarriage, loss, postpartum experiences of depression.
All the things that women hush and don't talk about.
Exactly. And so because of my own experiences, I decided this was like something that was so needed in terms of especially my area and in the mental health world. And so I pursued that, and I'm doing my own private practice now. And yeah, my idea is to maybe create like an online space for women who, are struggling in these different areas. And so yeah, I'm interested in that, and looking at, pursuing that down the road, but currently open to seeing any clients in the state of California, either virtually or in person, to address those issues. And it's just
Well, and it's so desperately needed. I have so many students that are in rural or places where there is no one local, no one that they can get help from. Like, and I'm picturing one of my students, her baby is over a year now, and she's still really struggling hard. And she lives in an area where there's no one accessible.
Yeah.
And it can't just be anyone. It really needs to be someone who is trained in this area.
It does. I feel like there's a different understanding after you've experienced these things. And, of course, it's not ever going to be exactly the same, but to have this new awareness is life-changing.
Yeah.
So
I feel that's how it was for me after I had my losses, for my ability to care for the moms who came in, who I right away on their records saw that they had, losses. It changed for me once I had my losses.
Yeah. Because you can't fully comprehend it until you've experienced something like that, right?
Yeah.
That death is so intimate because it happens within ourselves.
Yeah. It's different.
Totally different.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for coming today, Alicia, and sharing your journey. And we're so glad that we got to play a role in that. And go VBAC moms. Like, we've got to change this culture. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us today and listening to Alicia's incredible HBAC instead of VBAC journey, her home birth VBAC. Her story is a powerful testament to the strength and determination of women who are committed to having the birth experience they desire. So if Alicia's story resonated with you and you're inspired to take control of your own birth journey, you should be. I invite you to explore the VBAC Lab. Our community is filled to the brim with supportive VBAC mamas and myself and my doulas who want you to have an empowered, informed birth. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. We come at you every Friday morning. Leave us a review, please. Please, I beg you. It helps us so much, and it means a lot to the algorithm. Your feedback helps us create the content you love and you need. For more birth stories, tips, resources, follow me on Instagram, YouTube, all the places as Labor Nurse Mama. Let's continue the conversation over there and build a community of strong, confident birthing women. Until next time, remember, you're powerful, you're capable, you have the right to birth the way you want. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you again next Friday. Bye for now.